All right. What's up, everyone? This is Isaac with Hunger Smash Fitness coming to you once again. Today we have Travis Ortmayer with us, World's Strongest Man competitor. So if you were paying attention this last weekend, heat number 1 was finally released, and so you could watch that. And, well, let us know what you thought of everything. But anyways, so we are just here to talk about Strongman, his recent injury recovery, what he's doing to come back from that, and I guess future plans and goals. So yeah, I guess Travis, let's start with that. So how is your injury? Was it your bicep?
No, hamstring.
Left
leg.
Well, yeah,
one bicep. It was bicep femoris.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It was a little injury I sustained 2 weeks out. Training too hard, pushing I was riding that line between peaking and injury kind of the whole time. And 2 weeks out, I took a couple steps with the frame. I felt it light up a little, so I stopped. If I'd have had another week to recover, I think I'd have been fine. But that first event being a really heavy frame carry, the third time I picked it up, I just took a couple steps, and then I felt a little snap in that spot that I was worried about. And, so that first event, just to kind of keep on with that first event, I snapped something in my finger right when I picked one of those barrels up. Just a little tendon snapped. And I've done it to my middle fingers on both hands. It sucks. It's a pain in the ass, but, it's one of those things you can go through. So I picked it up. I felt the snap, and I was like, God dang it. First event, I still have the frame. I take the frame, and then I feel the snap in my hamstring. So it was like a giant middle finger, welcome back to World's Strongest Man. I hope this is what you really wanted.
Well, I mean, you still did pretty well, all things considered. I mean, even with injury and everything, I mean, you did better than I would have done healthy, so we'll give you that much.
Some of the guys were complaining about the barrel being like unfairly large girth, but you seem to handle it better than some of the other guys. So, I would have never known that you had a hand injury there. It looked like you really handled that barrel well to me.
Yeah, when I get injured, I usually don't show, like, when it happens. A lot of people have speculated. They say, oh, yeah, I can see right where he hurt his hamstring on the frame. And I've had several different opinions offered, but it was the very last step that I took that I actually injured my hamstring. And if you look, my face is stone. There's no emotion. If I'm injured, it all goes internally really quick. And then, kind of go through what is it's doubt, and then bargaining, and then rage, and then acceptance, or something like that. I kind of go through those, and usually I end up on rage for a little while. After a couple minutes, I get pissed off. I find a corner somewhere, and and I scream at myself a little, but I try to do so in a way that nobody is around. So.
Yeah. So this is formal apology time, because I'm one of those guys who speculated. I thought I saw you take like a hop skip or whatever, but maybe it was just tripping.
Well, there was a little bit of, I look at it and I can see why people would think, oh yeah, I see where it happened, and because there's a couple stutter steps, and I think, it was just the balance of that frame is pretty tricky, and And they don't tell you this, but those frames are a little heavier than 825. That little crossbar in the front between the two red pieces, it has this very faint chalk number written on each one of them. One says 834, one says 839. I'm guessing those are the real weights.
Strongman isn't exactly well known for having exact numbers when we're doing lifting. Powerlifting is down to like the 10th of a kilogram and all that sort of stuff. Strongman's kind of like, we're in the ballpark. Go run with that.
We've had that discussion with, Thor's 501 kilo deadlift. You know, I hate the nickel and dime shit. I hate that. So when it comes to a frame, I mean, it wasn't a world record attempt. So what 5 pounds difference doesn't make any difference.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I could see that. What was your, I mean, tell us about it. What were the highs and lows of the contest and everything? I don't know if you're still under a don't talk
NDA
type thing. So maybe don't spill anything you can't talk about.
But you know what? That's a good question. I mean, it's aired on TV. I'm pretty sure I can talk about it now.
Okay.
At least my group.
I didn't read your contract, so I have no clue.
The contract was like this thick, full of small, tight pay. There's a lot more in the contract than there used to be. A lot.
One of the ones that you need a lawyer
to social media stuff. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a really it was a really intense, surreal experience. The whole thing was, I mean, it was 10 years crammed into 2 months of training and then a week of being there.
Yeah.
So it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool though. You know,
I mean, it's like, it's okay for you to say that, but I got a little pissed. I got to tell you, one of the commentators during one of your events was like, "Oh, he would just be happy to just be here." And I'm like, "You too, buddy. Be quiet." You know?
See, I didn't actually see the show. I have no idea what was said. You know,
it wasn't Colin. It was the co-host.
I don't remember.
Well, I mean, you know, in a way, I guess he was right. I was happy to be there, but you know, I severely underestimated my abilities in training. Looking back, I know that I could have tapered way off several times and then come in 100% without. You know, it's so easy to get wrapped up in the, oh my God, I'm not quite there yet. I got to push harder. I got to push a little bit more. I can handle a little more. I'll get some time off. I should have tapered back a couple times during the training cycle and given myself to rest. And I think I was plenty strong enough. Maybe log press, no. But I could have done every other one of those events, no problem. You know, coming in, I was so, I think, deep into overtraining that I couldn't really get fired up. Of course, hurting myself on the first event kind of sucked the wind out of my sails as well. So I couldn't get fired up as much as I wanted to because I was so deep into overtraining, and then I couldn't get fired up because I was so frustrated. And I worked so hard for the squat in particular, and it felt so easy. Now, going into the squat, because we'd had several hours in between events, plenty of time to cool off, plenty of time for my hamstring to really start to hurt. Warming up for the squat, I was thinking I wasn't going to do that event. I was thinking I was going to have to drop out. And
really?
I even told our athlete handler, I'm like, look, I think I'm going to have to drop this event. I'm going to keep going one warm up at a time. And, you know, I'll keep you posted, let you know. But it's not looking good right now. But I just kept doing one more set, add a plate, one more warm up. And, you know, eventually I was kind of shocked. Here I was at like 680 or something in the warm up room and hitting it for a real easy single. And it's like, okay, the pain is consistent. It hasn't gotten worse. We're going to try it. So I went out there, and then, you know, I got so amped up that 700 felt easy. Yeah. I know when I lift something, especially after I do one rep, I'll get a number that pops up in my head, and that's usually the number that I'm going to hit. And instantly 11 popped up in my head. So I started counting down from 11, which is one more than which would have won the group. Yeah. So, you know, if I'd have come even close to that, I'd have tied for first. But really, I think I could have cranked out 11. And so I got real excited. And in my excitement, I was coming down a little fast. I had one bounce forward just a little bit. So I came up at just a slight angle but that was enough to put all that pressure on the hamstring, light it up, and I was like, not worth it, and dumped it. It was so frustrating, man.
Man,
because squat is traditionally not a good event for me, but it was feeling great.
No, you
That's
could tell
awesome.
that the dumped rep wasn't because you couldn't do anymore. You can tell that it was something, and I know you've mentioned in your IG about that sort of slight differentiation in positioning.
Yeah, I just kind of got off balance, and what normally could have been an easily corrected mistake, I wasn't going to risk ripping the rest of my hamstring off. At that point, it would have done some damage had I tried to save that one. So wasn't worth it, especially with things like, fingers where you got to pick it up from the floor basically, and then a stone off, which are both heavily hamstring,
Yeah.
it was, yeah. So the first day was like a great peak and then shit. It is what it is.
Yeah. How long were you there before everything started? Because they have you come in like 2 or 3 days beforehand. Oh, 5 days? Oh, wow.
Got there on Thursday, started competing on the following Tuesday.
Wow. So, did you get any good sightseeing in at least while you were out there? Or
no. We were quarantined. We were in a bubble.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, first 24 hours we had to stay in our room. They brought food, drinks, whatever we needed for that time, but we had to stay quarantined in our room for 24 hours. And then we weren't allowed to leave the hotel. We had a couple runners, and this is what doesn't make sense to me. We had a couple runners who would go and get everything for us. They'd go out and experience the world, interact with people, and then bring all those germs back to
back to you.
We were quarantined. But anyway, that's just kind of the world we live in at the moment. So,
yeah, exactly. So, I've been hearing all about these the vegan burgers that were offered to the athletes and all that sort of stuff. Was that actually such a big deal, or?
Oh no.
Or okay.
No. They were an alternative option. They were a local small business. They offered bringing food. They were just there for people who might want that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was cool because, my girlfriend eats vegan for the most part. I finally talked her into eating some real food, and she has eggs in her diet. I don't know if she can hear me saying this. So I'm just giving her shit.
There you go. Hey, that works.
No, but it was cool for them, for anybody who wanted it. It did not impact what we got to eat. Okay. In fact, it did actually benefit it because they brought some was it cashew milk shakes, like milkshakes. Oh, yeah, they were freaking awesome. They were so good. They were vegan or not, I couldn't care less. Cashew milk milkshakes are awesome.
Awesome.
At least theirs.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's kind of what I was assuming, because I was like, the majority of these athletes, if not all these athletes, consume a lot of meat. I don't think any of them. I don't think any of the strongman competitors are vegan.
There's a couple out there, but not at World's Strongest Man.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant, I guess. So I was just, I was assuming that was not going to be like the primary food source that they were providing for you guys.
No, I think a couple of people kind of went off a little overboard on that, making jokes.
Well, I think once people started making, once they started making all the memes about it, I think that's when it just exploded and everyone started talking about it, and it kind of got out of hand. But oh well.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was just making dinner for the family. I made like 2.5 pounds of burgers, like for the family for the week, and I was wondering how long it would take one strongman to go through that.
2 meals.
Yeah, 2.5 pounds.
Yeah, 2 meals. You eat about a pound of meat every time. Well, I guess I eat 9 to 10 ounces 5 times a day. And then my breakfast is, half a container of cottage cheese with a bowl of berries. and then 3 packets of oatmeal. So I mean, yeah, we go through a bunch of protein in a day.
Cottage cheese is awesome, by the way.
What's that?
Cottage cheese is awesome. Not enough people know about how awesome cottage cheese is.
When it's mixed with the right thing, I really like it.
Yeah.
You know, I remember as a kid always seeing it on the salad bar buffet, like, you know, either Shoney's or Sizzler or Golden Corral, wherever you are in the country. There was always that little thing of cottage cheese with the salad bar. And I remember as a kid, it always looked so good. And then I'd get a little bit of it, and I was disappointed every freaking time. This is awful. But I didn't know the beauty of mixing it with fruit. It's my favorite breakfast, man.
my favorite fruit with cottage cheese is pineapple. You try that?
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
I've started using frozen berries. I'll warm them up in the microwave. It's a blueberry, blackberry, raspberry mix.
Nice.
It was on the 4th of July pretty much every day. It's awesome.
Yeah. I was going to say, I usually do blueberries in the cottage cheese, and that goes well. I know we usually have just the regular, you know, full fat, whatever cottage cheese. I remember a little while back, somehow we accidentally bought a thing of the like the low fat or the non-fat cottage cheese, and I started eating some of that, and I was like, I think it went bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is totally different. Like you need the full fat for like the thickness and the flavor. Like,
yeah, there's something wrong with fat free. Shouldn't be fat free.
Yeah. I know. I need my fat. Like, I mean, oh well, but hey, there we go. Tyler says stuffed mushrooms with ground beef and cottage cheese. Actually, sounds pretty good. I might try that.
It actually does sound pretty good. I don't think I've tried that though.
No. I've done stuffed mushrooms with other stuff. I don't think I've ever tried cottage cheese in there, but
new recipe. All right.
Try it out sometime. Oh man. So how is your rehab going? Did you because you didn't need surgery on the hamstring, right?
It was just a small chunk.
Okay.
It was in the muscle, which is why it bled so much.
Yeah.
I didn't share the really gory pictures. I had a couple that were pretty gross. Especially after a day of standing up with the wrap. You know, the wrap on it, all the stuff.
It pools blood.
Like an old lady's fat legs sticking out her compression pants or something like that. not to be crude to old ladies, I guess, but
a little graphic.
It was gross, man.
Hey, the one you shared wasn't chopped liver either.
What's that?
I said the one that you shared wasn't chopped liver either. That looked a little gross as well.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But, you know, hamstrings are tricky. They're if you don't stop the bleeding on them, you're in for a lot of trouble. And that's if you pull it in the muscle anywhere, if you tear it in the muscle.
Right.
And you can tell a hamstring tear in the muscle because you'll feel kind of a juicy or a squishy rip. It's not a hard snap. It's kind of a squishy. And that's usually a sign that it's in the muscle belly and that you better put something on there to stop the bleeding because it's going to swell up bad if you don't.
Yeah.
Hamstrings, I've had 2 others where I wasn't able to do anything about the bleeding in time. Well, the first one I didn't know better. The second one I was in a competition and I just didn't have a way to keep it iced and wrapped and compressed. And I mean that was some of the worst pain. I was on my back for a week, couldn't move, feeling like, I had to go to the hospital or something for the first one. The second one, I kind of knew what to expect, so I tried to move around a little bit more. But my whole leg was black from those, all the way down to my calf, bottom of my foot. So hamstrings can get pretty gross.
Yeah. Have you ever torn your quad? I don't remember because I know quads can.
I tore it the week before the Arnold 2012.
That's right. Okay.
And I still competed, but it was pretty limited.
Was that in the muscle belly or was that in the tendon?
Yeah, it was muscle belly. It was on the vastus lateralis. I had a knot there that I kind of just left alone because 2012 I was kind of frustrated with training. I was so deep into, I guess, hurting all the time that I was not really taking care of myself anymore. I was just frustrated. I'd go and I'd train, and I didn't do all the prehab and the therapy stuff that I should have. So I had this knot in there, and it just kind of left it untreated for a while. And it snapped on my last rep of my last set of squats, the last workout before the Arnold 2012.
Oh, man.
I was the alternate that year, and I'd been called up a couple weeks prior, so there wasn't another one. I was the alternate, so I went in and I competed anyway.
Man, that's interesting that you had it in the lateralis. Like, because it seems like generally when I've had patients come in, it's usually like VMO, like vastus medialis obliquus, the little teardrop right above the knee,
Yep.
or up in like the rectus femoris or somewhere in that, like one of the big movers.
So I had a little tear in the rectus femoris once, but I think I don't know. I'm kind of prone to getting knotted up on the lateralis, like IT band area. Rolling the IT band, so to speak. I know that's supposed to do nothing. I'm probably hitting the vastus lateralis, but it does me a world of good.
Yeah,
it work wonders for me. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I think I've probably torn every muscle that you can tear at some point. I mean, I've torn everything,
Don't tempt it, because now you'll find one that you didn't know about that you'll tear now.
You know what? Don't you put that evil on me. Don't you put that evil on me. Don't you? You take that back.
You are a friend, Travis. You are a friend. We wish you nothing but.
Oh no. Yeah.
So I was just wondering, we talked about that, the opening medley. We talked about the squat a little bit. Then moving into Fingal's fingers, injured or not, 3 points there and a blink of an eye away from 4 points. How did you do?
If I'd have pushed the damn fourth one over, I would have won. I'd have beaten Ivar's on that. I just kind of lazily let it go because my head was on the fifth. All I needed to do was just finish my drive because he beat me by 0.3 of a damn second.
I
never thought about not getting the fifth. I've never missed the fifth before, but I should have done a lot of things different, but I should have been more aware of the limiting factor that my hamstring was going to be, and I could not get much leg drive into those things.
Yeah,
it was just kind of sloppy and all over the place.
Yeah, I saw Brian mention that he said it was on a little bit of an incline. Did you feel that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And it doesn't take much. Just a slight incline can really change that field dramatically.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like that's to go over the pivot point, basically, that's a couple extra feet on the end just by having it drop, 2 degrees or something. You're gonna have to push it way further. So.
Yeah, you're setting it higher relative to you, which gives you less advantage rather than lower to you. It's kind of same as a Viking press. If that pivot is at your eye level, it's not bad. If the pivot's up here and you're trying to push it, that's a different story, man. That's completely different ballgame.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because in watching it on CBS, I think the fifth finger was 380 pounds, I believe. And I was thinking okay, that's heavy, but Max was practicing with 525. So why is it so hard? What's that?
We know of. So there's so many factors on the fingers.
Yeah.
For one, that used to be the 705 finger. So they used to weigh, and it's the same exact finger. They used to weigh the base with the finger that gave you the total weight. Now I guess they do just the pipe. But the weight of the pipe isn't so much the factor, it's the length of the pipe. So you could have a 500-pound 10-foot finger, and it feels way easier than a 350-pound 16-foot finger. Because once you get, past that halfway point, you got all of this sticking out behind you. It gets real heavy real quick.
Yeah, you got a lot of parameters there. The length, the heat, the incline on the ground, all that stuff adds up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why worlds will never be an Olympic sport. There's just way too many things that are not standardized, which is kind of what I like about it.
Well, I think that's what draws a lot of the people to strongman is because it's not the same old every time. Like you're doing every competition you go to is different, you know,
Exactly.
and everyone has their own variation on how to do everything as well. So makes a lot more fun that way, I think.
I think somebody made a good point. Highland Games has field records. I think field records would be a good thing for strongman as well, or equipment records, because you got like, you know, the Arnold world record deadlift, but that's really the Hummer tire field record, or the elephant bar field record at the Arnold. You know, it's one of those things that you can't really duplicate it. So how do you call it a world record? It's like America saying, like any baseball team saying they are the world champs because they won the World Series, and there's only the U.S. and Canada that are in the league. You know?
Doesn't matter. You still won.
Like, yeah, in the NFL, world champions. I'm like, we have the East Coast and the West Coast, and what are you talking about, you know?
I know. Well, I have the same thing with how CrossFit, the CrossFit winner is always the fittest man in the world and the fittest woman in the world. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like fittest? You're the like, how are we defining fitness now? Like,
that's exactly it.
Whatever.
That's exactly it. You got to redefine the reality of and the nature of certain words to fit it within your parameters of whatever it is you're discussing.
Is cholesterol under consideration there?
What's that?
Is cholesterol under consideration in that equation?
Probably not.
You got to throw in a blood test before you can call yourself the fittest man.
Yeah, right. Ooh, your resting heart rate's too high. You no longer qualify as the...
You should be in the 50s.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh man. So how was the heat? I mean, because you come from a hotter area, so did you feel like the heat affected you as much?
I mean, they kept us in a cool area until our groups would go out. And even then there was like humidifier or mist fans, swamp cooler fans. They had all these cold towels. They were so over worried about the heat that I never really noticed it, to be honest. The only time I noticed the heat, I take that back, on the squat event. Now, it should be noted we were group 1, so we were the first group every day to do our thing. So event 2 and then event 4 and 5 were pretty warm. Event 1 and 3, we did at 8 in the morning. It was pretty cool. You know, so the squat was done at 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon. It was on this big black rubber surface with these big black mats on this big bar that was painted black. It was pretty warm. That was
well. You guys were wearing a squat suit for it too, right?
Yeah. But even with all of that in consideration, I mean, it wasn't that bad. And
right.
When I come from Reno, you know, Reno. People say Reno's hot. It was like 102 here today, yesterday. But it's dry mountain air. It's not like 102 in Texas or Houston. 102 in Houston, I've never felt anything like that. And I've been to Dubai. I've been to Southeast Asia. I've been to Australia. 102 or 110 training at the unit in Texas was the most god-awful feeling I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. I can understand that. The other day we had a heat wave come through here, and so I think the hottest it got was 109 or 108, something like that. But it was at like 12% humidity, 14% humidity. It wasn't too bad.
And if you're in the sun, that gets hot. But if you're in the shade, it's 20, 25 degrees cooler. Yeah.
Right. Well, but I was working out at the gym, and there were only 2 or 3 people there, and they had the doors open because the AC wasn't working. So they were trying to get like an airflow going through there.
Perfect.
And so and so you're in there and you're like, well, it's, 95 indoors and 108 outside. Like that starts getting warm when you're doing deadlift and everything. And I was like, even just sitting in a chair, I'm sitting here sweating.
Absolutely. It gets toasty for sure.
Yeah.
But when you're warming up and you hit one event, we're doing 20, maybe 30 minutes of work. You know, and half the warm up was done inside where you stretch out and it's pretty cool in there. You know, and it's really not hot if you tell yourself it's not hot. Yeah, that's the big thing. It's like if you sit there and go, oh my God, it's so hot here, it's just going to feel even worse. So the most important thing you can do is just say, I'm fine. This is nothing. I'll be cool. And then do your thing. Drink plenty of fluids. Drink more than you think you should, which was a mistake that I think I made. I don't think I drank enough before or during day one. And that might have led to the finger and the hamstring.
Yeah, it was. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, for me, I was just so wrapped up in the whole experience. I think I forgot a few things that were pretty crucial to me being successful. So,
yeah, I was just going to say regarding the heat, I was chatting with Max a little while ago because he and I are setting up an interview for next week. And he basically said the same thing. Like I had made my impression was on the squat. He maybe had another rep or two in him, but the heat just got to be too much. And he corrected me. He's like, nah, it was strategic. Had nothing to do with the heat.
So, yeah, and that's the thing. I think if the athletes start to say it was the heat, I think it was drilled into us by all the medical staff and the other staff so much that we almost believed it. But, you know, when you get to that stage, you're a professional. You're a professional athlete. You conduct yourself accordingly. And if it's hot, you do what you got to do. If it's cold, you do what you got to do. These things, we all have to deal with the same factors. So letting those in and letting those get to you mentally, it's weakness. It's it can bring you down. It can throw you off. It can ruin your event or your day or whatever. You know, those are all things we got to train ourselves not to allow to affect us.
I think it would be awesome if, you know, to balance out the heat, because they've done it in Africa, they've done it in, you know, hot places a number of times. I think they should start running it in, like Alaska in November or something like that. Do World's Strongest Man and, Fairbanks, maybe over in.
I would rather do the heat any day. We did IFSA Worlds in Iceland at the end of November in 2006. It was miserable. I had just lost a bunch of fat, so I was really lean at that time. And I was from Houston, so I didn't even own a coat. I had no idea what warm clothes was. I didn't bring a real sweatshirt, like a hoodie. I had some Under Armour warm gear and some long sleeve shirts, and I had no idea. One of the Icelanders, a guy named Georg Ogmundsson, he actually gave me his sweatshirt. He was like, here, just take this, man. I can't watch this anymore. It was miserable. And, the qualifiers was done in the Alcan aluminum factory, which was not heated. It was 15 degrees Celsius, which is -9 Fahrenheit. That was where we competed. They had this room, which was a massive room with like a 40-foot ceiling. It was huge. Our warm-up room, it was about 40 degrees, maybe 35, something like that. And then halfway through our group, I remember them opening this giant door to let in some huge tractor, which brought in all the cold air from outside. So it was rough. It was the qualifiers in 2006 were rough, man. There was a lot of injuries on the deadlift, a lot of injuries on those. So that's why I would go with heat. I'd rather see guys pass out from heat exhaustion than start breaking because their joints and muscles are too cold.
I think a perfectly temperate area to do the next World's Strongest Man would be in northern New Jersey somewhere. And all of the most prominent strongman YouTubers, get invited.
I'll put in a good word, see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, we'd be down to host the end of the day live stream or whatever that Martins was doing. I think we could do a pretty good job of that.
I think so.
I gotta say though, Nick English was better this year. I didn't care for him too much last year, but he's been practicing. He was better this year.
Yeah.
Did he do Facebook?
Yeah, he and Martins were doing it together.
Oh, he and Martins were okay.
Yeah.
See, I didn't see any of that stuff.
Martins is good. Like he was, he's knowledgeable. He's he's honest, but maybe too honest because he was picking some guys because they were his friends instead of saying that he thought they would really win.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was getting a little bit frustrated with was like you could tell there's a lot of bias in them because they know all the athletes. Whereas John and I don't really know anyone, so I guess we're willing to throw people under the bus.
Big Laz always reprimands me for that. I'm picking Big Laz to win the Hercules hold at the Strongman Classic, and he's like, no, Mark Felix will win. You're wrong. He's like, don't pick with your heart.
Yeah, I know. Well, when Mark Felix is showing up, you're like, well, I guess we're getting a new world record. Like, I guess
he'll just break Terry Hollis is going to break it.
Yeah, I think Terry pulled out of the Giants Live Strongman Classic.
I think he's officially retired now. Yeah, I remember talking to him after familiarization. He had already ripped muscle, and he got like a second divot in it. So it was kind of a weird looking thing. And then he ripped it some more like during the first event or the second event. I think it was on the deadlift. I think he felt it ripped some more, and he was just done. I think he was done after that. So
yeah, there was actually a clip where he walked over to the cameraman and he said, like, can you make sure you're getting some good shots of me because these might be some of the last ones.
That's right. I saw that. And that's the I guess that was the end of a legend. He's a tough dude, man. I've competed with him a lot of times, and he's a really good guy. He's one of my favorite people there. And it's interesting to see him move on. I guess it'd be interesting to see what he does next.
Yeah, I was getting a little bit frustrated with people because there were, I forget I can't remember if it was a World's Strongest Man post or one of the Instagram posts, but a bunch of people were like, oh, Terry was always mediocre, he blah, 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 and just like really.
He podiumed twice.
Yeah, I was like, he podiumed twice. He made the finals a ton of times. Like, you're getting 25 of the best in the world at something, and he's beating a lot of them.
He's made it into the top 10 several times. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's been doing it for like, 14 years or something like that is how long he was there?
2005 was his first, so 17 years, 16 years.
Yeah. So I was like, you got to give the guy some credit. He hung out for a long time.
15 World's Strongest Man, or maybe 14. I know he retired before and then he came back.
Right.
So he retired in like an MC position, and then I think he competed next year.
Well, he did the bodybuilding stint for a little bit too, but
I
don't know. I don't know if he's going to go back.
Man, I was impressed. I was really legitimately impressed.
He cut weight. I was surprised. He went from being
Terry as Fat Terry. I knew Fat Terry, and to see that transformation, that's like, that was pretty cool to see. I was impressed.
Yeah, that's dedication. But we have a question in the comments here. Tyler says, what's the difference between a squat suit and a deadlift suit? I've only worn a deadlift suit.
So you know how a deadlift suit feels like you're getting a wedgie that you can't get away from? A squat suit does not do that. I guess there may be some different deadlift suits now. I think there's some that metal makes it a little tighter on the legs, so it doesn't ride up your ass that way. But a deadlift suit, I mean, if it kind of pulls your shoulders and your ass together and gives you that wedgie feeling, so that when you drop down and start pulling, it kind of pops you up and it keeps your torso from caving, at least in my experience. Which is why I can get more out of a deadlift suit than I can raw, because I feel like the weak point for me is my low back will start to cave before my hips and my legs will give out.
Okay.
And then all that extra compression helps to spring you out of the bottom too.
I always assumed they were kind of the same thing, because I've seen some people wear squat suits for deadlifting, and so I just always assumed they were the same, but that's good to know.
Yeah, I've let's see. You can either squat in a deadlift suit, but you can't deadlift in a squat suit, or you can deadlift in a squat suit, but you better not squat in a deadlift suit. I don't know which one is which. I just stick to deadlift for deadlift, squat for squat.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you're getting a wedgie with the deadlift suit and then you try squatting with it where you're getting that much greater flexion at the hips, it's probably going to make the wedgie that much more intense.
Well, see, that's just it. It kind of a deadlift suit feels like it keeps more up your backside than a squat suit does. It does more in the hips and gives you rebound out of the legs on the hips. Especially for someone like me, because I'm a real wide stance squatter. Just naturally, I got real long legs, real long femurs. So my deadlift stance and my squat stance are not even close to each other. So I don't think I would get anything out of a deadlift suit for squatting.
I was going to ask you about that, whether you took that wide of a stance at World's Strongest Man because of it was the globes with the padding, or you always squat that way?
You know, it's I traditionally squat that way. For the last few years, I've brought it in because I was trying to get more quad development, try to build my quads up. But training for Worlds, I kind of went back to my old power stance, and I forgot how good it felt and why I did that. So I think I'm going to do more squatting, probably 1 in my suit and 2 with that power stance, because I started to really enjoy squatting again. And, you know, I'll just leave the quad development for front squats.
There you go.
Yeah, Isaac, when you see it televised, you'll see what I mean. And Travis has a really noticeable wide stance on his squat.
Yeah, I don't have TV, so I need to find a way to watch it. I mean,
me too.
I watched all the little YouTube bits and all the Instagram bits that I could find, but I haven't actually seen the compiled showing. But
yeah, I got to wait for it to come out on something else. I've only got, Hulu, Prime, and Netflix, and then, of course, YouTube I can stream.
Right.
But yeah, I guess in my fight against the cable company and how much I hate them, I kind of screwed myself out of watching World's Strongest Man. So
I liked it. I thought the production was good. I liked it better than last year. I don't know if it was because some of last year was indoors and you kind of lose a little bit of that emotion of seeing the guys fight the elements and whatnot. But I thought the production was really nice. The Old West looked really cool in the background.
That's cool. That's cool. Did they at least build the drama up? Did they use our interviews at all?
I think so. But I mean, so it's an hour of group 1 doing everything from groups all the way through to Stone Off. So they built it a little bit. But the one thing I don't like is that, did you see it last year, Travis?
Yeah.
So you know that opening montage they have with the mountain guy setting fires and stuff? It seemed like the same thing this year or close to it. And I don't know. It looks like the animation could be better. It just looked kind of old.
I don't know if I saw that part.
It's like the mountain gives birth to a guy made out of the mountain, and he breaks everything and sets fires.
That sounds pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I saw I think it was the UK version on YouTube, and I don't know if it had the intro on it.
Oh, all right.
You mentioned it. Yeah, because I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah. But Isaac, I got to tell you, can I mention one more thing about Terry Hollins before we leave that topic?
Yeah, go for it.
So Travis, as Isaac knows, I've been doing some data compilation recently. And so I looked at, over the last 20 years, I ranked all the World's Strongest Man finalists as to how many points they earned out of the possible points, just in the finals. Okay. So there have been 71 different finalists in the last 20 years at World's Strongest Man.
Okay.
Venture a guess where on that list Terry Hollins is. If you take an aggregate of all his appearances.
5, 5th.
No, not that high. He's 28. So he's in the upper echelon of so for anybody out there talking about Terry Hollins being mediocre, is in the upper echelon of World's Strongest Man. Bump up a few notches to 21. Guess who that is? Travis Ortmayer.
Oh, really? I hear about that guy. He's pretty bad.
So he's ranked 21st out of the last 20 years.
If you take all of the points in World's Strongest Man finals that Travis has obtained of possible points, he's 21st.
Wow.
Out of 71. It's quite an accomplishment.
You're a legend.
All right.
Yeah.
You want me to share the list so you can see who's around you?
I'd like to see Paul Oles list again. He's got a list of the top all time based on international competitions, America's Strongest Man, Worlds, Fortissimus, and Arnold.
Yeah, I'll get there. I'll get there eventually. I'm not there yet.
I was 14th on that list before I went back to America's Strongest Man a couple times, and now World's Strongest Man. So I think I bumped up past. I can't remember who was in front of me. I think Jeff Capes was one place in front of me.
Oh, let me move it over so you can see the results. So this is every year.
Okay.
Let me get you over to the end.
Travis is ahead of JF Carone.
And Derek is 2 points ahead of me, that son of a bitch.
You got time, though, Travis. You got time. You can come back.
That's right. That's exactly right, man. I'm coming back and raising my status.
You're gonna, yeah. 1 or 2 more finals, and then you'll do it.
Where's another stat that you might like? You know, I am now the record holder for the most time between World's Strongest Man appearances.
I heard that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, 10 years. I think it was 8 years for Vitas Blakaitis.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have that record, if that means anything.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to try and break that one though, because by that point you'll be in your 50s.
No, I'll leave that one. I'll leave that one up. I'd be interested if somebody else could break it, because that was a hard fight, man.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Man, that's crazy though. You're surrounded by some pretty great athletes.
Yeah, I didn't realize Mike Jenkins was that high until I did the math.
I mean, yeah, Mike was a solid guy.
You want to see the top of the list that I haven't revealed on my channel yet?
Yeah, let's see it.
Ooh, you want to reveal it on the live stream?
Yeah,
I know Marius is going to be up there.
Listen, if Travis says jump, I say how high.
Mike Burke is up there. Look at that.
Yeah.
Jesse Marundi. Oh, Jesus. All right. Yeah.
You got to take into account though how many appearances. So Novikov's at the top with 1 appearance. You can't compare him to Brian Shaw with 13. You know.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Jesse
Marundi only had 1 appearance at World's Strongest Man final.
1 final. Yeah.
Oh wow. That's right. I guess he didn't make it in 06, and he didn't make it in 07 either. I don't know. He didn't. I think he did not make it to that competition.
Yeah. So this is sorted by that percentage column where Novikov has 78.33. This is what this is sorted by.
Gotcha.
I'm surprised that Marius is ahead of Big Z.
I think because Big Z's probably done more finals.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12.
Yeah,
you can see it in the column right next to his name. He's done 12 in that 20.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, 12 and 8. So Brian's got more finals than anybody.
Yep.
As of this year. Look at that. Got to hand it to Brian. He's got some staying power. I respect the hell out of that guy. He's an athlete, a man. He's tough, dude. He's tough.
Yeah, I mean, he was right there. Little bit of a bobble on the Atlas Stone. He was right there. I mean, he wasn't going to beat Tom anyway, but
well, but he could have gotten that 451 log that he missed.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, he's done it multiple times
where he left some points on the table. That
well, even in the was it the medley that he got like 8th or something like that, and it was one of those things where if he would have been like a second faster, he would have gotten 2 or 3 more points.
Yeah, that very well could have been. The medley was real tight, but so was the Titans turntable. And Brian left a lot of points on the table because he let his arms bend while he was pushing and lock them and tuck his head. Here's an interesting side note. Eddie Hall had the number 2 time of the day. I don't know if this had anything to do with anything, but before Tom's turn, Eddie went out there and he pushed it back manually rather than turning the machine on and driving it back. His time was like 47 seconds. He was like 5 seconds in the lead, and then Tom pushed it and got 46. Now, I don't know if like the mechanism didn't reset because maybe having it pushed back kept it looser somehow. I doubt it, but You know, maybe Eddie greased it up a little better, pushing it back for him.
I heard rumors that it was turned on when Eddie was pushing it, but I don't know how true that is.
When who pushed it?
I said I heard rumors that it was turned on when Eddie was pushing it, but I don't know how true that is.
I was sitting right there. Yeah, he just went and pushed it.
All right, then.
His cardio was fantastic.
Rumors eradicated.
His form was on point, man. He had his arms locked, his head down, all of his body weight leaning into it. He did a good job on that. Of course, he was fresh. He hadn't done any other events. And that was one. It was hard to push, obviously, but it was like the harder you made it, the harder it got. So you could push it without a super ton amount of effort, like a decent amount of effort, yeah. But it would move. But to get it to go any faster took a tremendous amount of force. So, like, I leaned into it and I just kind of pushed it a little bit. And, you know, I was kind of being careful with my hamstring. I just wanted to play around. And it was moving. But to get that thing to go any faster, you need a ton more force to increase this velocity that it was moving.
That makes way more sense because I saw a couple videos of people like pushing it one-handed in flip-flops and all this sort of stuff.
Terry did it with flip-flops.
That was Terry, yeah. That was
Terry.
And
I saw Terry do it. There were a couple women that did it as well, and like
it would move, but really slowly.
Right, slow walking pace, kind of.
It moved real slow, kind of easy. I mean, it took a lot of effort. It took a fair amount of effort to get it to do this. It took a lot of effort to get it to do this, and it took an extraordinary amount of effort to get it to go a little bit faster. So, like, every half of a mile an hour faster took 50% more power. Just throwing those out there. And I know for a statics guy like you, a statistics guy like you, that's horrible numbers and horrible math. And
I know. I was going to say, be careful throwing out numbers around John because I'm
just overjoyed that someone's throwing out numbers other than me. This is wonderful.
He's going to be like, all right, guys, we got official numbers on the resistance for the turntable.
No, I'm glad you cleared that up though, because people were saying like, "Oh, it's not heavy; it's just for speed. It's how fast you can run and this and that." But that kind of progressive resistance is a good description.
Yeah. It's like the harder you pushed, the more it held back against you. So you could make it as moderately difficult or as extremely difficult as you wanted to, based on how much effort you exerted into it. But that was one of those, if you didn't do your form right, you were wasting a lot of energy, and that's where Brian lost it on that. Yeah. He was wasting a lot of energy letting his elbows bend because this is absorbing all his shock rather than posts and all legs.
Yeah, he admitted as much on his channel. He talked about it recently where he spent way too much time getting the form right.
Yep, exactly. And it was one of those, I mean, you only get one chance. And when you're separated by tenths of a second, you can't screw up. You just can't screw up.
Yeah, so, I mean, seeing how it all played out toward the end and how close he was able to get himself, getting only 5 points on that event was a huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah, because he has the endurance, he has the mass, and he has the strength, obviously, to have gotten second first to push Tom for that one, for sure. Yeah, but it is what it is. It's it played out the way it played out.
Yeah, speaking of Tom, what do you think he's going to do with the Strongman Classic coming up? I have an opinion, but I think yours is what most people want to hear.
You know, I don't know what all the events are.
Shall we tell him, Isaac?
So, I can. Here, I can actually pull. I won't pull up my predictions. I won't show that yet, but I'll share. Oh, come on.
Yeah, let me see if I can remember them, Travis. So there's a frame carry, there's a Hercules hold, there's an Atlas Stone run, there's a front hold like World's Strongest Man had. There you go. Axle deadlift.
Yeah, so it starts with the max axle press for max weight, and then the Hercules hold, which Law said he's assuming it's the about 200 kilograms per hand, but haven't heard officially on that weight yet. And then it's the axle deadlift, 350 kilograms for reps, frame carry, 400 kilograms with straps allowed. So I guess it's going to be more of a sprint. And then the 30 kilogram front hold, and then the Atlas stones.
That 120 to 200, is this the Shaw or is this the Albert Hall?
Albert Hall.
Albert Hall. Yeah. Okay. Those stones should be done in 20 seconds.
Yeah. Well,
21.
I was looking up some of the previous records of people, and it's interesting because you can see some people going through in like 20 seconds or whatever, and then some people are taking 40 seconds or so.
It's one of those things, if the conditions are right and you got the right tacky, the first 3 stones in one motion, then you just kind of quick lap on 180 and then a quick lap on 200. And it's not a super high last platform. So for guys like Tom and Brian, it's waist height basically. Yeah.
Right. There you go.
It's hard. It's, as far as predictions go, I can't predict. I've seen so many things, so many upsets, so many crazy things happen. I think I've lost my ability to predict the outcome of a competition.
Oh, you and me both, brother. I've had dozens of people tell me you can't predict.
Yeah,
well, there's just so many variables. There's too many factors to think about, and not only are there too many factors with the events and the location, there's the factor of, did the athlete sleep right? Did he eat the right thing? Did he mess his guard up? Did he just trip over his own foot? Was it something simple? Like, did the guy who went before him sweat too much on the Atlas stones? Like, there's so many factors.
Yeah. Did he not lock his arms out on the turntable?
Yeah, that's exactly it, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's your prediction?
My prediction, well, so if Tom performs the way that he's been performing at World's Strongest Man, not the way that he performed at World Ultimate Strongman, I have him finishing at about third. So,
with who in second and who in first?
Well, so I've spent the last 3 days going through everybody's Instagram and all the Strongman archives, seeing how they've done for the last about 3 to 4 years on all these different events and all that sort of stuff. So I actually had JF finishing first and then Laws second. But then I was assuming JF was going to be healthy by the time competition came around, and he just messaged me saying that he's pulling out. He's not going to be healthy by then. So
yeah.
Now I'm going to have to rework my predictions, I guess. So what about you, John?
I haven't done them yet, but Laz will kill you for saying he's going to podium.
I know. But I was like, looking at his training, how his training's been going, and looking at his competitions back to like 2017. I didn't look at all of his, because he had that little gap in there, and then he had the stuff back in 2012 and all that. And I was like, I'm not even going to pay attention to those ones.
He's going to beat some guys on some events. I just don't know.
Honestly, I don't think he's going to win any events based off of what I'm seeing. I don't think he'll win any, but he has a really good shot at placing consistently high in just about everything.
He's good in front hold. He's good in frame carry. Hercules is a grip event. He's good in grip. He's not going to win those, but he's going to do well in those. Then it comes down to the other things.
Yeah. And Stones, he's all right. But then that's the thing is, you've got Tom's showing up. You've got, some of these other guys who are just phenomenal at Stones. So it's whatever.
So I think Travis might be giving us a look about what we're saying about Tom, but I don't think Tom's going to win either. I think listening to Tom and Lou talk on their YouTube channel, Tom has said like World's Strongest Man is what counts. That's why I didn't do as well at West Bahrain, and I peaked for World's Strongest Man. So, just like mentally focused speaking, I don't think he's going to peak again for this. That doesn't mean he's going to come in last, but I just don't think he's going to win this.
Right. I think part of it too is it's so soon after World's Strongest Man, where and watching his videos, I don't think he has the mindset to do well, but we'll see.
Is Novikov in this one?
Yeah, Novikov is competing in this one, which
he can do pretty well in this, especially with as irritated as he'll be having not made the finals at Worlds.
Yeah, and I've been watching some of his videos, and he seems to kind of go back and forth with that. Like, some of them, he seemed like he was pretty upset, and then other ones, he was kind of like, it was what it was. Didn't get the job done.
Well, as an athlete who's been in a situation similar a time or two, you're going to be, stuff happens. It can happen.
Right.
Happens to the best of us. He was in a tough group. It just didn't roll his way. So you can't freak out and get too mad, except you're still going to be kind of mad.
Yeah.
I could have done something. I could have done this.
Well, and you only get to that level by having that mentality,
Exactly. You got to be able to you got to be a professional athlete. And on the other hand, you got to be kind of your own worst critic a little bit. And that's where you need a coach to kind of guide you back into the same path, because like for me, I'll beat my head against the wall if I think it'll make me any better at an event. So I need somebody to kind of rein me in a little bit and say, look, that's crazy. We're going to stop. We're going to go this way. I can do that for all my athletes. I just can't do it for me.
Yeah.
No, so I gotta ask this question, because Travis, you don't hold back. You answer everything honestly. What are your thoughts about Novikov turning around backwards with that frame? You got to tell me your thoughts.
I think it was creative. And I was suspect at first. I was questioning at first, or whatever you want to call it. I was skeptical at first of whether or not I was going to be okay with it, because it sounded like he dragged it. And that's not okay with me. You don't drag. And the guys that drop and then scoot a few extra feet, I hate that. I think it's cheating. But as far as I could tell, he picked it up every time and got it off the ground. So there was a couple, maybe a little bit of little slides that, if I was judge, I'd have told them, no more. You could keep picking it up backwards, but you can't lay against it and drag it a few extra feet.
It's not a sled drag.
I thought it was creative, man. I don't know exactly why he decided to do that, unless he was genuinely just trying to slide it more, because you can get as much grip time going forward as you can going backwards, and I think that was his problem, is he couldn't hold on to it. So you can just kind of leapfrog it forward without, unless his hamstrings were just totally fried and he just couldn't step anymore.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Is potentially engaging some different muscle groups cheating?
No, hell no.
Okay. All right.
That's smart. That's totally smart. If you can figure out a way, if you're doing a front hold and you can figure out how to engage your lats or something like that, dude, go for it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm egging you on a little bit. I think really it is, if there's a rule or a policy, you follow it, and if there isn't one, then you do until you're told not to do.
We may have the Novikov rule next year. Athletes must remain facing forward while doing the event. And that's possible. That is part of strongman legend right there. If you can get a rule named after you, then you're doing something right.
Well, that's like we said before. That's kind of the beauty of strongman is, it's different every competition. So
yeah, absolutely.
So Tyler in the comments here, he says, I think Tom can break 15 seconds on the stones. What do you think about that?
So I've done from 6 feet to 4 feet, 120 kilos to 180 kilos in 12.3 seconds, 5 stones.
Wow.
That, I mean, when I watch the video, it almost looks like the video is played in fast forward. I kind of wonder, I'm like, how the hell did I actually do that? But I remember it. And 12.3 or 12.8. Because I'm picturing, so I'm either picturing a 3 or I'm picturing an 8 with a faded side. But either way, sub 15 on a set like that is possible, but it's going to be flawless. And it's going to be one motion on at least 4 of those stones.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be.
That's crazy.
6-foot platform is crazy. 72 inches. Like, I mean, you're what, 6'3", 6'4"? It's basically you're putting it at your eyes.
You just kind of take it, throw it, and either use the side of your face or get enough momentum to put it up.
That's kudos to you, brother. That's crazy.
Well, I've got the world record for stone for height. 385 to 72 or 74 inches. I forgot what it was.
Wow.
So it was maybe 365 to 74 and then 385 to 72. And I didn't have to go any higher because nobody was keeping up. So I think Ober said that might be a part of the road record breakers later this year.
Oh,
so
really?
If it is, I'm going to have to come defend my title. So
what weight stone is it?
Yeah.
Well, the 385 was 72 inches, and we did a 365. I got 74 inches.
Dang.
Yeah.
So speaking of, I noticed that you guys were doing some videos together, and I watched some of his stuff. Some of it is clickbaity, and I don't watch it. But I'm like, that sneaky bastard. He put Travis in his videos, knowing now I have to watch.
He's a fun dude. He's a good dude. I had a good time with him.
Good. So what's your opinion of his head? Because I just remember the first time I met him, that was the first thing I thought was his head is massive.
It's massive, and it's made even bigger by his frizzy fro, beard, and hair, his mountain man haircut. He's a gigantic dude, man. He's big
anyways, but
yeah.
He's an entertainer. I'll give him that. I mean, during part of those sushi challenge, like I saw some of the jokes he was making. You were giving him looks like, "Are you for real?"
I haven't actually watched it, so I'll have to come back to that one. But yeah, I remember there's a few crude jokes in that man. You could tell he played sports and came from a big family, and he was the youngest from that big family. And
yep.
So there's a couple extra events. I didn't know if you wanted to hear anything about them.
Yeah, go for it,
man.
For sure.
We had that overhead press medley, which, God, every part of that was feeling really good except for the dumbbells. 200 was kind of kicking my butt. Years ago, 220 would have been a joke. The only person that could beat me on the dumbbell in 2010, 2009 was Poundstone. I was even beating or tying with Big Z on that event. So dumbbell used to be like great for me. And then I don't know what happened. I think I was training with the plate loadable kind, and it's a different technique, and I hate those kind. I love the World's Strongest Man kind, the Slater ones with the rounded ends. I love those. But I only had like 2 training sessions with it. So I was kind of building it up, and then I think I got to around 190 or 200 in training, pretty easy. So that 210 went up. I think it was a little sloppy because the footing on that surface was a little soft. It didn't seem like it, but when we were up there, we could feel, it was a little soft on that sand. Where the plywood, I guess, and rubber on top of the sand. You could feel some bounce. So I got that first one pretty easy. And then the second one, I popped the hamstring for the final time, cleaning it, which then just kind of got in my head and was like, well, shit, like stability went out the window. And so I couldn't get to 220, which really frustrated me because the barbell and the axle were like nothing in training. I should have, in hindsight, I should have just skipped the 220 once I realized it wasn't going to happen and did the other two because, hey, I'm here. I'm going to have some fun. So it wouldn't count for points, but it would have counted for pride. I think give myself a shot, you know. But, you know, I think the other guys in my group really did well on that. And every single one of them would have gotten all the implements. The only reason that Ivar's didn't is because he didn't need to.
Yeah.
Once he saw me not get the other dumbbell, he just needed to beat me and make sure that he stayed in that third place position so that he was going to the stone off. That's all he was worried about.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I saw you did the dumbbell right-handed. Were you purposely trying to stay off the left hamstring, or you always lift them right-handed?
I usually go back and forth, but I had a little bit of a teres minor shoulder issue, which was fine throughout the competition, but the dumbbell in training seemed to aggravate that. So the right one was feeling good. I just wanted to go with it. Normally, well, years ago, I was actually better with my left hand, and then I tore this pec, and I've got half of it missing. And so I spent a year trying to keep the same angle positioning, the same form, and my right hand kept excelling and my left hand started to fall apart. And then I realized I needed to quit trying to make it exactly the same as the other side. I got to open it up more, and my left arm started to become better again. But there were so many things that I had to practice that I hadn't done. Dumbbell was one of those that just kind of fell towards the bottom of the list, and I didn't really mean for it to, but I knew I needed to get my squat up, and I knew I needed to get my deadlift up, and I needed to train some axle, and I needed to train some frame, and I needed to train some yoke, and I needed to start. My stones were crap because I've only trained them a few times until this year. So I just had a lot going on. Like I said, I tried to cram 10 years into 2 months. It was a little overwhelming.
Listen, man, you had a good showing. Like, let's not take that away from you with the single fingers and whatnot. You had a good showing.
I appreciate you saying that, but as an athlete, you're always going to be a little frustrated when you don't perform as well as you could have. And so that's something I've got to really come back to the drawing board and figure out why that was. And I think it was what we talked about at the beginning. I should have known I was strong enough for these events. My training should have been more, peaks and valleys and allowing more recovery time rather than hitting it hard, short recovery, hitting it hard, short recovery. Because I would do 2 hard weeks and then kind of an easier week, and then 2 more really hard weeks or 3 hard weeks and then an easier week. And it just wasn't quite enough. But, you get that little voice in the back of your head that says, so-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's doing that. You're not quite strong enough. That felt really heavier than it should have felt. You should go train harder. That's the demon that gets me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Big Laws told me what you see so-and-so doing on Instagram may not always be the whole truth. Like, they could be using a really whippy bar on deadlift or maybe not showing you their best. It can go either way. So you gotta try to avoid that demon, I guess.
Well, so I played it one way going into America's Strongest Man. I didn't show any of my top lifts until right before or the week after America's Strongest Man last year. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to lie and grossly inflate all of my weights. I'm going to be like a 260 dumbbell for 8 reps, no problem. Put some fake plates on the deadlift bar, do like 1,060 for reps. And and just getting some guys' heads so that maybe they blow themselves up trying to catch up. Maybe it'll work that way.
So you want us to do predictions with all these numbers and just have you winning by like 30 points over everyone else?
There we go. Yeah, we can conspire together.
Yeah. Well, Travis wins every single event.
Travis walks out. He did that one armed. Y'all suck. Might as well give up.
Exactly.
That's funny. But it's funny you were talking about Ivar's only did on the overhead belly kind of what he had to. Because when I was watching him, it seemed like I think he and Brian were head to head on that one, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And I saw Ivar's got to the axle at the end, and he looked like so smooth on everything else, and did one attempt on the axle and stopped. And again, like I assumed, the heat got him. But it's funny to hear you say, no, he stopped because he knew what he had to do.
No, he's had some trouble with tightness in the shoulders. And I worked with him to try and it's going to take him a couple months to be able to get into the rack position. But, that's one of the things we do for each other. He's my brother, so I'm going to help him out. But at the contest, he even said in the warm-ups and when we were talking, he was so stiff that the axle, if it wasn't a revolving bar, he would have had no chance. But since it was revolving, he had a slight chance to get it up. But when he was actually in the event, he decided not to risk the injury, the over stressing his body. He just did enough to stay in that stone off position.
Yeah, and I think like I was because I have interviewed Max before, and I had been saying all along, watch out for this guy with the stones. And it first of all, it was interesting how the stone off worked. Like he just had to match Ivar's because he was ahead of him. But Max he made the stones look easy. Like now that I've seen it on TV, he made them look easy.
See, because he lost going to the final last year, I heard that he trained his ass off on stones.
He did, with
the intention of that never happening again. And I mean, it paid off.
Yeah, he told me when I interviewed him, he told me like, I want to get to a 500-pound stone before Worlds. And I said, why? The stone at Worlds won't be 500. And he's like, well, then that one will be easy if I can do 500.
Yeah, exactly. And I was kind of thinking the same thing. I wanted to work my way up to my 520. But it just never worked out having the time to even do it. But looking back, I didn't even get a chance to do it anyway. So whatever.
That's one thing. Cause I'm pretty excited. The gym that I go to on the weekends, currently the heaviest stone that they have is like a 335 or something like that, but he's getting some more built and the heaviest that he'll get is a 400. But since it's indoors, they don't allow tacky or tacky towels or anything like that. And so he was telling me that when I started working out at the gym, I was actually the first person to load the 335-pound stone onto I think it's a 60-inch platform that he has set up.
Nice. With no tacky.
And with no tacky or anything. He was like, oh, you're actually the first guy who's ever been able to use that stone. I was like, oh,
nice.
Sweet. Well, when you get the 400, I'll give that one a shot too. Well, I don't know how that'll work.
So I'm gonna ask a total novice question. What does indoors have to do with tacky?
Cleanliness.
It's messy.
Cleanliness. My gym's the same way. They keep us outside, which keeps it sucks. It sucks because my stones are constantly being just blasted with dust and debris and stuff the wind kicks up. And then when I try to use them, it's so dirty and nasty that you get like 2 sticks and your tacky is gone. It's a little frustrating. That's why I did most of my stone training over at Untamed Strength.
Yeah, there you go. Alan's awesome. I want to head down there and meet him sometime. You should watch my video that I made about 1.5 years ago on how to clean Atlas stones with a grinder and a flap wheel. Get them.
Oh yeah. I mean, they don't have tacky on them anymore. They're so blasted by the sun and everything.
Yeah, that's true.
It kind of vaporizes the tacky. So I do my best to dust them with a towel before I go. But really, what you need is a good thin layer of tacky. Yeah. All the way around the stone. And then, because when we had the storage unit, it was always inside that storage unit, so they were fine. Nice. Might get a little bit of dust, but really not a whole lot.
Yeah, the ones that I was using before sat in someone's garage for like 4 or 5 years, something like that. So they got used. I think they got used in a competition and then basically stored in the garage, and the guy stopped doing strongman and blah, blah, all this other stuff. So then my buddy got a hold of them. And so then the first time we tried to use them, we tried to use some tacky, and there's a half inch of dust all the way around it, plus grime because it just built into the old tacky. And I think trying to use tacky on that made it worse. So then we were like, well, we're going to take a full day and clean all of these stones.
Yeah, there you go. You clean it off first. Mm-hmm. And I used to have everybody who would do stones go over and hug the 460 or hug the 520. So they would get all their tacky on there every time. And so they'd be seasoned. And by when I wanted to use them, they were usable. But
yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so we had another event, the front pickaxe holds. I was going to ask you about that because it looked like the part of the handle that connects to the axe portion is wider, like it kind of tapers out, and guys couldn't get their whole hand around it. So what was the approach of not holding both hands lower? It would wobble around? Like
we had to have one hand in contact with the metal bit.
Oh, okay.
And then the other hand could be down on the slope. I think they wanted you to have your hands slightly separated. I think some guys may have slid theirs up. But yeah, that was the general idea was one hand had to have contact with the metal piece, and then the other hand needed to be below it. It could not overlap. And I think just the general consensus was it was easier to grip where it came in, where it contoured in. So most guys had that staggered grip.
Yeah, because I thought with the one hand, I'm like, oh, they can't even get their whole hand around it. That sucks.
Yeah. And my time, I feel like my time was kind of screwed up because I was the first guy to go. So I had a helper on either side, and no one had coordinated any of this together. And I was holding it for like 15 seconds before we actually blew the whistle. And so I'm like, am I right? Are we getting this right? And then this guy's waiting, and now it's getting tilted. And now it's like, but when you're the first guy out, I could have just put it down and said, no, stop, wait. We're going to redo this because I don't know what you're doing. It was probably more on me. It was most likely more on me than it was on anybody else because not getting to watch anybody else and see what they were planning to do, I didn't know what to expect. So I go out there, I start holding full force. These guys still have their hands on it, not letting it go high, not letting it go low. And so I was just wasting all this energy. But at that point, I wasn't going to make the stone off. My hamstring was screaming at me because of the extra little tug that I felt on the dumbbell. And even if I had made the stone off, even if I had won the stone off, I was planning to withdraw from the final anyway. Even if everything had gone my way, I'd won the stone off. The first event in the final was two events that would have absolutely wrecked my hamstring. Those walking events are what really caused a lot of pain. So right from, day two, when I picked some of those fingers up and I could feel it really pulling, I was like, that was where the wind was really sucked out of the sails. That's where a lot of my fight was like, God dang, I don't want to have to go through an entire contest with this injury. And then a second contest right afterward, starting out with this injury. So, that kind of took away some of the ferociousness, the ferocity that I would normally attack an event with. And, it sucks because that's part of the fun for me. I love going out there and fired up, crazy, and just attacking it. But, like I was saying, I thought it through and I had plenty of time to think about it between all those events. Even if I had gotten to the stone off and won, that would have been the end of the contest for me.
I would have loved to see that anyway, because if you really think about it, if you were holding that pickaxe for 15 seconds before you started, that puts you in first place. Then you go back to Fingal's fingers, you do it a split second faster and come up a place there. Your squat goes a little bit different way. Now you're in a stone off.
Oh, half second faster on the fingers. 15 seconds more, and it might have been 12 seconds. I don't know if 12 seconds would have put me in first.
I think it does.
Would that still have put me in first? Well,
let me see. That would have put you at it would have had to been like 12.6 seconds. But yeah.
So we're looking at first or second on that. A split second faster on the fingers gives me a point, and the squat going my way, that's a win in the group.
Yeah.
That's God. And being able, and then of course, not having a bum hamstring trying to do the dumbbell, I may not have won the overhead medley, but I would have probably been third, maybe second if it had been really going my way. But I know I could have gone faster than Gavin's time, and I would have gotten all 4 implements. But that's the sport, man. It's coulda, woulda, shoulda, and it doesn't go your way. It doesn't go your way. So, but those are the kind of things that's fun to know, because I think 1% more, 4% more, just a small little tweak here, and coming in fresh. I'm fully capable of doing this. That means I'm already capable of doing this. I just got to put the pieces together. So that's a huge confidence builder. I'm glad you told me that, actually, because that's a huge confidence builder.
Yeah, this is what I'm here for. I pick out the numbers that other people aren't picking out. That's what I'm here for. Even if you only, okay, the finger's like it's on you. You didn't push it over, but the pickaxe is not on you. And just getting that right puts you above Gavin. It puts you in 4th.
Well, to be fair, the pickaxe was on me because I didn't understand the protocol, and I was wasting effort and trying to figure out what was going on. And, I should have I'm a pro. I know how these games work. I could have just said, wait a second, how are we going to do this? Let me know so I'm 100% ready, because I don't want to waste any time getting up here. That was on me. So there's no one else to blame for any of this. It's 100% me.
I think the new rule should be Colin demonstrates everything before anybody touches it.
I like that. I could do that. Yeah, I could go with that. We'll throw Colin out there.
So, what competitions do you have on the horizon for the rest of this year?
Yeah, I've got a team competition in Finland, and then a competition in Portugal the week after that. And those are coming up soon. I was going to do the Rainier Classic up in Washington, but that's just going to be a little too heavy to be ready for that with my finger one and my hamstring. So, I've got a 2-man team competition. I can kind of lean on my teammate with the grip stuff. And
anybody we know?
Yeah, who are you?
His name's John Cotton, Tyler Cotton's brother.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah. Familiar with
I've
him.
met Tyler. I've never met John.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with Tyler.
Yeah.
I don't even know where he lives, so no. The only thing that we would really need to practice, assuming there may be 2 things. There's a log clean and press, 2-man log clean and press with 250 kilos for reps, and there's a sandbag toss medley. If we do the sandbag toss, anything like we did the weight for height in Ukraine at the first World's Strongest Nation, which was a 4-man team event, you have one guy on each side of the implement throwing together. So that's the only other event I can see us having to work together on. Everything else is like a yoke frame. Well, there's a 2-man truck pull, but we don't have to coordinate our efforts together. We just got to pull as hard as we can in tandem. I think there's a loading medley, sandbags, but that looks like 5 bags. It's just both of us going as fast as we can to get each bag. It's different in that aspect of working with a teammate than it is working with a teammate like on the log clean and press or a 2-man deadlift or something where you've got to time and work in coordination in conjunction with the other guy. That's a whole different feat in itself.
Are they going to show this at all? This sounds like really cool. I'd like to see this.
It's Champions League. Champions League shows on a lot of local sports stations or local-based channels. I keep getting messages from people saying they saw me do some contest back in 2018 and the beginning of 2019 before my shoulder injury. So it looks like they're about a year, maybe 2 years behind on what they're showing, but they're putting it on all sorts of local stations.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seems like team throwing events would be a bad idea. I don't know.
It can go wildly out of control very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, because if one person throws just a little bit early or something,
Get a spin or, totally. Yeah. I did it with Josh Thigpen, and we actually nailed it. We were, similar height, similar build, and we really got our timing down, and we did a great job together. But in our warm-up, our first throw was freaking atrocious. If you'd have told me we would have done as well as we did based on our first couple of throws, I'd have called you a liar, because it's all about building a cadence and trusting your partner to adhere to the same cadence, and you keep that cadence no matter what. As much as you want to jump ahead and throw extra force, you stay with the pace over trying harder, if that makes sense.
And what was the implement you were throwing?
It was like a metal tube with a handle. There were 7 or 8 of them. We'd have one guy who would kind of load us. He'd bring the implement over from the side. Then we would grab, throw. Then he would bring the implement back over. We'd grab and throw. But yeah, it was just kind of, the 1, 2, throw, 1, 2, throw. And you got to get all your moving parts in time with the cadence.
So it's more of a technique thing than an actual strength thing then.
On that one for sure. Log clean and press is both. You got to get your timing down, and you have to be strong. Because essentially we're pressing 275 each. And that's only if it's done perfectly. If it gets out of sync, you're pressing 320 and he's pressing 240 or whatever. And, I don't even know how tall he is. If he's as tall as his brother, it's going to be bad for us. It's going to be rough because, the funny story, in 2008, it was a 4-man team, World's Strongest Nation. It was me, 2 guys that were about 5'9", 5'10", and then John Connor, who's 6'8". And it was a 3-man log. Our first 3 guys to go out, because I had to kind of keep the cadence and try to get them to go in sequence. It was John and then the 2 short guys. So John was locking out here, and he knew this was not right, so he did a couple reps. And they were getting the downs because the other guys were locked out. And I can't quite do this right without – so imagine me standing up, locked out here. And then on the 3rd rep, we go up, and John's so unsure of himself that he squats down and he pushes his arms straight. So his legs are bent. He's in like a full squat catch, and his arms go straight. I'm over here on the side trying to keep order, and I'm laughing my ass off just because of how he looks trying to do it. But that's, with a 2-man log, if I'm 6 inches taller than the other guy, or at least with my reach, it's going to be tricky to try and press that.
Does he still compete? I know I see him post stuff on Instagram and stuff every once in a while, but he's not
he was talking about getting into competing. He came out here earlier this year. He went over to Untamed Strength, and I met him for a workout. He was talking about getting back into competing, but he keeps having little injuries.
Yeah, I remember him saying something about that. He's a cool dude though. Like he's strong. But
ridiculously strong, like scary strong. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and even when he's injured, he'll put up some videos of him doing crazy stuff, and he's like, wasn't feeling so hot today, and
only did 375 strict press for 4.
Yeah,
I hate you,
like,
John.
all right,
I hate you so much right now.
Cool, dude, way to go.
Speaking of pressing, Travis, at Royal Albert Hall, who's going to get the max axle press, Luke Stoltman or Iron Bibby, or somebody else?
Dude, if Iron Bibby can get it to his shoulders without wasting too much energy, he'll crush the world record. That guy's shoulders, it's just all about if he can get it up there without killing himself. And I don't know, I've never seen Luke do an axle. I know his 475 log at Worlds was still a warm-up. I think if they wanted to go for a world record that day, he could have had it. There's no doubt in my mind he had another 35 pounds in him. It went up so easy.
Even with everything he had to do before that?
Yeah. And either that or he did a great job of making it look easy because he put it up, dropped it, and was like, walked away. It's like, I kind of hate you right now, Luke. Asshole.
Well, he was going for the world record for a bit there last year, and he came really close to it.
He locked it out for a second. He just didn't have it stable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
so he's got the strength, but
absolutely.
But I know axle's a bit different just because instead of a neutral grip, you're grabbing it.
It depends on if you don't feel comfortable in the rack position. I've always thought that the guys who could get it on their shoulders, like Misha, would have a better chance at throwing it up. Of course, Eddie Hall kind of destroyed that myth. Where he did, what was it, 215 or something?
Something like
that. Got it up and just pushed it up. I mean, with like a toy. But guys who can't get it racked, it's how much energy do they spend getting it to that position? Yeah. Because like we talked about with Ivar's, you have to throw it up here so much higher and then catch it on the shoulder joints essentially. And, if you're too stiff or if you aren't structurally thick enough to make that an easy catch, then your numbers are going to be way down. Your numbers are going to be,
a lot of stuff that Iron Bibby does, it looks like he'll do like from a rack where he just presses it, or a lot of them he'll do seated too. And so it's like he's got these insanely strong shoulders, but he's not training the clean motion much.
That's why I'm wondering if he can get it up in an easy enough fashion or easy enough manner, then he'll smoke it. But like I've only seen him do the seated stuff or out of a rack or whatever.
I've seen him put up 1 or 2 videos of him doing a full, clean and press with different implements. But it's not what he usually does. So
I wonder if he's just been doing that and keeping it under wraps. That would be really cool.
Yeah. We have Tyler in the comments again. He says, I see Bibby getting 240 on the axle. That would be
if he cleans it. Yeah.
That'd be pretty insane.
I mean, that's 25 kilos over the record?
That's what, 528?
Something like that. I think it's 528.
Yeah. That's crazy. It'd be awesome to see someone get 240 on that, on the log or on an axle. I mean, either way, that'd be pretty crazy. But
but it is hard to take 500 pounds and bring it up to your shoulders. That takes
most people can't even deadlift 500 pounds. What are you talking about? The vast majority of the population can't budge 500 off the ground. You have dudes throwing it overhead. So
fair point.
It's pretty insane either way. But all righty. Well, yeah, anything else you want to cover before we start wrapping this up? Or
No, I just wanted to get through all the events, which we did. So Travis, which event in the finals? I know you didn't do them, but which one in the finals was kind of the most intriguing to you? Which one didn't play out maybe the way that you thought it might?
Ooh, good question. Let's see. So the one that I wanted to do the most was the turntable. But as far as what happened with the guys that were out there, there was a couple log presses that I was shocked were missed. Tom and Brian missing at 451. I think Tom may have even missed a little bit lower than that, but which really opened the door for Brian. If Brian had gotten the 451, it would have been a lot of points. Of course, here I am giving away information I probably shouldn't be giving away. Wait for the TV show.
We already know who missed what. No worries.
Yeah, we've already. I mean, we've covered everything on our channels. So if anyone's watching our channels, they already know who scored what and all that in everything. But
gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest surprise was really just Maxime. Just quietly kept kicking ass on things. He did really well on the keg toss. He did really well on the log press. And then he just kind of he didn't sneak his way on the podium, but he just, I guess nobody saw him coming. Even he was surprised. He was like, man, I wasn't expecting that. He didn't really know what to think about it. So I think he was the biggest surprise of the whole show for me. I knew he was strong. I knew he was going to do really well. But I knew that the deadlift was going to be an Achilles heel for him. And I guess I thought that might carry over a little bit to the keg toss. But I was wrong. I mean, he was really good on the keg toss. And the points he did lose on the deadlift didn't hurt him that badly. It kept him in the fight, and then that hard work on the stones paid off because he finished the set. And that put him on the podium ahead of Trey.
Yeah, I mean, I always knew he was going to do well on stones. I got to say, even I didn't think he would sneak ahead of Brian on the stones, and then he got his 9 points there. And speaking of keg toss, he tied Tom for second there. Brian won the keg toss, got elevated his record there, and Max was right behind him with 8.5 points.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive to see. Looking back, all the little things that he did to kind of push his way up there, man. He was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he gets middle of the pack on deadlift. Maybe he wins this next year.
Yeah. How many points back was third place?
Let me take a look. So third place was
Brian would have been 3 points behind Tom.
Yeah, so Max was 9 points behind Tom.
So he would need the deadlift and he would need another event to kind of come up. Yeah, Brian and Tom put on a show, man. They did outstanding. They really did. I knew when I started watching Brian on the the squat, he cranked out 10 reps, then the fingers, I knew he was going to do well on. Just the way I knew he was going to be so consistent on all of those. He just kind of steamrolled his way through our group. The rest of us were dropping points here or there, and he was not dropping any points. He was first or second, I think, on all the events, except for the pickaxe, of course.
That was funny. So again, we can talk about it because they televised it. So I was telling Isaac, since he didn't see it. So basically what Brian did was he needed to just not zero it to win the group. So he picked it up, he held it for 5.6 seconds or something like that. He lets go with one hand. He's waving it around so easily with the other hand. What do I do with this now? And it was so funny how he made child's play out of it.
Well, I think he increased his leverage by bringing it in close to his body.
Sure, excuses. We'll go with that.
Yeah, he's not that strong. Nah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because it was a 30 kilogram, right? So that's, I mean,
Something like that.
I could
don't think
maybe
it was
wave
quite that heavy. I think it was like 57. God dang, I can't remember. It wasn't quite 66. I think it was maybe 62 or 63 pounds, something like that.
We have one more comment in the right here from Tyler. It says, do you believe it's possible to go from a 605 to 1,000-pound deadlift in a year?
Sure. But the 605 would be from a deficit, and your 1,000-pound would be from 18-inch.
So switching modes, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't anything in there against that. So, yeah, maybe a above the knee, 1,000 pounds.
That's strong, man. If you didn't state the rule, then you could make your own rule.
You just got an Ortmayer rule in there.
Yeah, right. I could probably do it in 6 months if I go from a deficit to a 24-inch. Maybe we could probably.
Got that mid thigh, man. I'm there.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember those deadlifts back in the day when Sigmarsson and Kaz were doing, where they were moving it like 2 inches?
Yeah, see, Kaz was stubborn in that he tried to keep his deadlift form and keep it an actual deadlift. And John Paul, he did kind of a ramping technique. He'd put his knees under it and then just squatted up, which is definitely the way to go, but not a true deadlift. So that record was broken. That record was broken, I think, 2 years ago at World's Strongest Viking in Norway. They did a similar lift just like that. I think 600 kilos won.
That's a lot of weight.
Yeah. I think it was maybe Sean O'Hagan that did it.
Okay.
I could be wrong. On that.
That's crazy. I've done like an 890 rack pull, and I was pretty happy with that, but that's the most I've gotten up to.
When you have anything hanging from your arms, it's 700 or 800 pounds plus. That's a lot of friggin' weight, man. It's amazing what your structure can hang on to. You know, just your joints, ligaments.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's for sure. But all righty. Well, we're approaching the 2-hour mark, so we should probably start wrapping this up. Should probably go check on my wife. But well, thanks for joining us, and thanks for coming by.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely be interested in monitoring your recovery and all that sort of stuff, and I'll be looking for the team competition. I'll try and find that. That'd be fun to watch.
I'll put some updates out. I'll make sure we keep. I don't think they'll do any kind of live stream. I don't think Champions League does that. But I do know that Champions League puts all of their episodes on strongmanworldseries.com.
Okay.
Sign up for like a $7 a month membership, and you can watch all of them from 2011 or 2012, every episode.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I think it's strongmanworldseries.com. If that's not it, then check out Strongman Champions League, and I'm sure they got it somewhere on there.
Just start Googling stuff until you come across it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to try and look that up and try and find it. But any closing comments, John, or any last words? You're muted. John, you're muted right now.
Sorry, I was saying the most important thing. I said my closing comments are, anybody watching, remember to subscribe to Isaac and like the stream. Yes. If you like what you're hearing, and you're crazy if you don't, Travis always brings the awesome conversation. Subscribe and like. And then, hey, what the hell? Go over to my channel and like and subscribe and like all my stuff too. Why not?
World's strongest conversationalist. I'll take that.
Hell yeah! I called you. What I call you?
World's strongest philosopher. Yeah,
there you go.
World's strongest.
That's even better.
Yeah, maybe that'll have to be our nickname for you from now on the channel. We'll just say the strongest philosopher. There you go.
There we go.
But-
Make it an inside joke kind of thing.
There you go.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us. And
Absolutely, man. We're talking about strong, man. I love it.
Oh, for
Awesome.
sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, for everyone watching, just remember to always improve that 1%, and we'll see you next week.
Ciao, homie.